Well, good morning from Shelf Indulgence Book Chats. I am your host, Kimberly Bennett, and I have with me today Katie J. Trent. Welcome, Katie. I am so excited to have you. And let me just give everyone, if you're not familiar with Katie and her work, here's a little bit of a background for Katie. She is a popular author, speaker, and homeschool mama of two. She's also a Pinterest dropout. I can totally relate. With a messy house and happy kids. Most of the time. I can relate to that too. Katie's mission is to inspire women to grow their faith, strengthen their family, and simplify their homeschool. Katie is the best-selling author of Dishing Up Devotions, 36 faith-building activities for homeschooling families, and her latest book that we are very excited, coming out in August, correct?
Correct.
Coming out in August, yes, that we are going to talk about today, Recipes for a Sweet Child, creative Bible-based activities to help your family thrive. She's also the founder of Family Faith Building Academy and Community and a leader in the Christian homeschool community who draws on a wealth of knowledge and experience from over a decade of counseling and ministry in order to build strong, faith-filled families. Welcome, Katie. We are so excited to have you today.
Thank you. It's my honor.
Well, I just have to tell you, I ran across you in one of our various homeschool mommy groups that we are on Facebook and started to connect and started to see several different things about this book that you had coming out. And I was like, I need to read this. So I reached out to you and we connected. And let me tell you, this is one of the most heartfelt, beautiful devotionals I have ever read. I resonated so personally with it. Oh my goodness, as I get a little bit teary, recalling some of the most poignant moments in there. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write? This is your second devotional, actually, but what has inspired you to write such beautiful, beautiful words to encourage and inspire other moms?
Well, I think a lot of it is that life experience. As you said, I've done counseling and ministry, so I'm around families all the time. And then, of course, raising my own kids, seeing the struggles and, struggling myself to try and equip them and help them to grow and thrive and really embrace their faith from a young age. So it's really from my heart to yours. It's I see the struggle and I know that it's real, and I wanted to be able to provide parents with something that would be practical and tangible and quick, because as busy
Mhm.
moms, we're doing so much all the time. And I know it's so hard. We want to help our kid with, that anger outburst. But in the moment, it's like, what do you do? Or how do you point them to Jesus? Or how do you overcome this? And it can feel so overwhelming. And so my heart was just to be able to take what God has blessed me with and shown me and be able to support other mamas as well.
You definitely achieved that goal, at least with this one mama. And I love what you took from something as far as when I was building this house, when we moved here a decade ago, the first room I started on was the kitchen because that is the heart of the home. It is where people gather. It is where you create nourishment and you create love. And one of the first lessons I feel like we teach our children is in the kitchen. Just small little steps like that. Just if it's something as simple as a PB&J, or if it's scrambled eggs, which is the first thing my son has learned to make independently. We eat a lot of scrambled eggs. So he's pretty proud of those. Yes, we eat a lot of scrambled eggs. But the fact that you chose something that is so natural and nourishing, that nourishes the body and nourishes the soul, from recipes and how you aligned that with so many different things, I think is what makes your book so beautiful. You drew on counseling experiences as well. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what they will find in Recipes for a Sweet Child?
Yeah, so I tackled what I feel like are 36 of the most common struggles, and I broke them into 3 sections. So we've got the emotional struggles, the behavioral struggles, and the relational struggles. And so I took each one of those as a chapter, and it's got encouragement for parents and kind of overviews and tips and tools and
Mhm.
just practical things, as well as my own struggles, so that you can see you're not alone. So it's a devotion for parents, and then it's got a simple Bible-based lesson or something very practical to help them overcome that struggle, and a discussion guide, because we all know that the more that we can cultivate
Mhm.
conversation, the more effective we're going to be at helping our kids to overcome those struggles. And then a fun family activity, because I believe that in order for lessons to stick, we want to make them fun and meaningful and memorable. And so that's what this book
Mhm.
is equipped to help you do. And then, of course, as you mentioned, beautiful full color baking recipes with what I call a baking buddy, which is actually just like an object lesson. It's a little script for you to take what you're cooking and creating and point them back to Jesus in some way and some sort of
Mhm.
biblical truth. So it's something, you don't have to do all of them at once, but it's just kind of an arsenal in your tool belt to give you everything you need to help your kids to overcome these struggles.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And what I loved about the book, and I did read the whole thing, but I like that you can start anywhere. You don't have to go in order. I immediately gravitated to certain chapters because it's what related to my family, from the anxiety and the worry to the perfectionism. I'm like, oh, there I am. Oh, there's my child. And it was so comforting. What your book provided for me too is a sense of community. I think since the pandemic and the world shut down, we've had to rethink how we do community. And it looks very different now. We're getting back into it where we can get out and be with other people, but we had to take a look at it differently. So your book provides one of the most important components as a homeschooling family, and I know for our family and for many, and that is the comfort of community.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really important to me. As I write, I want to feel like we're just sitting across from each other and having a cup of
Mm-hmm.
coffee together, right? Because I can't
Yes.
be in all of your living rooms together, but if I could, I would be. And so this is my way
Mm-hmm.
to be able to reach as many of you mamas and know that the struggle is real. I think sometimes people look at counselors or, pastoral families, ministers, anything, and say, oh, well, they have it all figured out, right? Like they just must be a so much better parent than I am. And my goal is to help you see that I am
Mm-hmm.
just as imperfect as you. I may have the knowledge and the skills and the resources, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean I don't have the same struggles. It's almost worse, right? Because it's like I know what I should be doing, and yet I find myself
Right.
not. I relate with Paul in that way, right? Like my flesh is weak. And so I hope that people that read the book will find comfort in that and know that there's no perfect parent, and we're all just doing the best we can and leaning on our Savior.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He is our strength. It is never in your own strength. Well, Katie, I know you are a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm an LPC, licensed professional counselor. So we share that in common. And I know that, even if we've not worked in direct service in the field for a while, once a helper, always a helper. And it just becomes part of who we are. How have your experiences in counseling kind of flavored this recipe book for you, or how have they inspired you a little bit? What's that secret ingredient that you put in this book from your helper field experience?
That's a great question. I feel like a lot of what I've seen, and yeah, I have now that I'm homeschooling my kids, I don't do direct practice anymore. But what I've learned and what I've seen, those are all woven in. And I think what makes this book so helpful and so practical is that you get that professional experience. You get some of those
Mhm.
tools and techniques that I would do if I was sitting down with a client. You have those at your
Yes.
hands as well, so that you can implement things that are very practical, very easy to implement and immediate. Sometimes we
Hmm.
can do things and it feels like help is a long way off or the journey is going to be too long. And so really I tried to cut through all of that and say, like, what are the most important things that you need to know in order to tackle this emotional, behavioral, or relational struggle today? As soon as you're like, open the book, go to that chapter, what can I do
Yes.
to help? And so that's really where I think you see that counseling background come into play.
Definitely, because I will share, even though, like you mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter how much professional experience you have in the knowledge. When you're a parent, you're a parent. You're not a therapist right then. So even as I said, I opened your book, and of course, I did read the whole thing, but I went straight to the chapters that applied to me first. And I was rereading through them, and I was like, oh, I do know this. I just don't know it right now because I'm in the moment as a parent, I'm not a therapist in that moment. And even if I was a dermatologist, I wouldn't remove my own skin cancer. So it's nice to learn and relearn those skills and go, okay, yeah, I can do this. It's okay. I'm still just a mama first, counselor second.
Absolutely. No matter where you're at in your life and your journey, the goal is that this will help you. And you'll notice throughout the book, I mentioned, if your kids are littler, start here and do this. And if your kids are older, you can add this in or do this instead, because we're all at different places. And so no matter where you find yourself when you pick up recipes for a sweet child, I want you to have the tools that you need right there for you.
Yes, that is the beauty of it as well. People think, well, can I use this with my teenager? Absolutely. Please teach your teenager to cook just to try before they leave home. Their college roommate and their spouses will thank you.
Yes,
Years
and I do
later.
have to put a disclaimer here. The recipes in the book are all like treats and snacks and things like that. Confession time, I am a terrible cook. In fact, if you were on my social media last night, you would see a picture of my son with char all down his tongue because I made
I
him
saw
chicken nuggets
that.
in the skillet and thought like, hey, I see my husband do this all the time. It'll be quick and easy. But my son does not like burnt chicken nuggets, apparently. So I do not
Who
cook.
knew?
He does the cooking. I do all the baking.
That's
I like to say that cooking is an art and baking is a science. And I am a recipe girl. I can follow a recipe and make it turn out good. So I like to bake. I'm not the cook. So please do not look to me for your culinary skills. Only baking.
That's fair. That is completely fair. But you know what? Whenever there's a potluck or a church gathering, we know who we want to bring the dessert.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm your girl. I mean, we give neighborhood treats, we do every time I'm
Mm,
quick, like, let me get to that dessert before everybody else does, because otherwise I don't know what I'm
yes.
bringing. So, yes, they're always delicious. So, there are a few snacks and a few healthier alternatives in there, but they are treats. And really the purpose for that, because some people might ask, like, well, why are they treats? But I feel like, especially when you're teaching a hard topic or you're addressing something, if you can bring some joy into that, if you can bring something delicious and fun, they want to be a part of that. Your kids want that delicious
Hmm.
treat. And so they're going to be in the kitchen with you. They're going to be open to what you're talking about. And it just kind of brings those defenses down. So I find that is a great way to tackle these tough topics.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to get someone's attention, whether it's your spouse's attention or your child's attention, you can lure more bees with honey than you ever can with vinegar.
Absolutely.
Everyone has different strengths. And I'm only laughing because I'm thinking of a very dear friend who lives in Michigan that I will not name her right now. But you mentioned that you're great at baking, but you're not known for being the best cook, if you will. I have a friend who lives in Michigan who, whenever we had get-togethers, her job was to bring cups, plates, or soda. That was it. What if you have a child who does not enjoy baking, or what if you do not enjoy baking? Is this a book that can still be beneficial for you?
Yes. So the great thing about the book is that, as I mentioned before, it has multiple ways that you can tackle each topic. So
Mhm.
if nobody likes to bake, let's just say nobody likes to bake, then you might only do the discussion and the lesson and the fun family
Mhm.
activity, and that's more than enough. Or let's
Mhm.
say you like to bake, but your kid doesn't. It's set up perfectly for you. You bake the treat, and then that baking buddy conversation connection that I have, you just read that to them. It has like a
Mhm.
scripture and kind of a tie in for, we're making this pretzel because of this. And so you can do it that way. And that's not a problem at all. Now, if it's your kid that likes to bake and not you, as long as they're old enough or have some other adult supervision, they could
Mhm.
bake and then you could read the baking buddy. So it doesn't matter
Mhm.
if you don't cook. And we also have a lot of recipes, I should say, that are like gluten free or dairy sensitive or easy to
Oh,
change out
yes.
for things or very sensitive to allergens. There's so many people now. So you'll find a lot of that as well. And if you don't have any allergens, so gluten free is not an issue for you, you can always substitute regular all purpose flour for the recipes, but they're designed so that people with allergens can go ahead and make most of those treats too.
And that is so very important because you don't want people to feel excluded just because they have certain dietary constraints. So it is quite versatile.
Yes. Yep. That's the goal. Like I said, I'm all for easy. I'm all for fun. I'm all for simple and open and go. I don't have time to do tons of research or, study a lot of different things out in the
Mm-mm.
heat of the moment. And I doubt you do either. And so that's the goal, that you can pull that off the shelf and say, wow, I'm about to lose my mind because my kid is having all these tantrums, or they're tattling, or they're
Mm-hmm.
lying. Like, because in those moments you're so frustrated. So the goal is that you have this resource where you can just open and go and say, okay, here's what the Bible says. We're going to do this and we're going to do this activity. And even the activities, a lot of them are like classic games that we used to play with a twist.
Mm-hmm.
So like dodgeball
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Like, there's simple things that tie in a way that are just fun ways for you to connect with your kids.
And that's what it's about, that connection, connecting with them first. And the rest of it is not always going to flow simply or easily, but it will flow. It does,
Exactly.
because you want to make a heart connection with your child first.
Absolutely, because the stronger your relationship is with your kids, the more effective your discipleship's going to be. They're going to listen
Yes.
if they trust you, if they love you, if they're connected to you on that level, then they're going to be receptive to what you're trying to teach. And so if you're at a place where the relationship's an issue, the goal is to help you strengthen that relationship so that everything else can flow from there.
Yes. 1,000%. Yes. So I'm going to draw on a little bit of your counseling and mental health experience here, because you mentioned a lot of these issues in your book. What advice do you have to give for parents who may be struggling with their child's behavioral issues, and how can your book help them?
First off, I just want to say, it's not you. These are things that all kids struggle with. And I think that's the most important thing for
Mm,
us to grasp, because the enemy would like to lie to us and make us believe that we are failing as a parent, right? That we're doing something wrong, that
mhm,
we're screwing up our kids. And I want you to know that's not the truth. The struggles that you're facing now are pruning you, they're refining you, they're growing you more Christ-like. And I tell everybody, the Bible has a solution for every problem we face. And so when we're struggling, we want to turn to Jesus. And sometimes we need to just start with that rest. Rest in the knowledge that He is faithful and He is good, and He loves your kids so much more than even you could fathom. And so trust that as
mm,
desperately as you want to help them, His love and His desire for them is so much stronger than yours. And so know that He's not going to leave you. He's going to walk you through this process. And He's brought you to this podcast, to this book for that very reason. And He's given you the tools that you need. James 1:5 says that if anyone lacks wisdom, all they have to do is ask. And that is really a life verse for me. As I'm struggling, I go to that
mhm.
over and over again. I need wisdom. How do I handle this? So trust in God and know that nothing is going to just resolve necessarily overnight. It may be a process. And so don't put that expectation on yourself or your children that you've got to do it. And I don't know about you, but I know that I have struggled in the past with feeling like pressure from outside, and maybe it was just in my own
Mm.
head, but feeling like I need to address this in a way that like is acceptable to everybody else, or like there's an embarrassment factor or a fear factor. And I just want to tell you, like, don't worry about it. So often the mama that's looking at you as your kid's having a tantrum is thinking like, that was me last week. Wow, she's staying
Yes.
so much cooler than I am. Or, like, oh, she's doing so
So
well. I
true.
remember that time. Or I miss when my kids were that age. So don't get caught up in that. Just trust God, and this book, open it up, find the struggle, and just take that first step. And that's why it's a devotion for parents. Sometimes people ask me, well, why isn't it a family devotional? Because as parents, we need the help and support. And so the words poured out in the devotion are for you, to know that you're not alone, as you mentioned before, Kimberly, to know that you have community, and everything you're facing, you're not alone as you walk through it. And so start with that devotion. Even if you don't tackle the behavioral issues or dive into anything else, just start with the devotion, and that will help kind of take that, it's okay. Everything is going to
Yes.
be all right. I can do this and I'm not alone. So that would be
Mhm.
my advice.
Yes. Start with that. Just simply deep breath and exhale, and start with you. I think so often we want to, not that we don't focus on our children, we do, but so often we forget to focus on ourselves. And we do have to, as parents, as especially when we're doing double duty as homeschool parents, if we're doing triple duty as homeschool working parents, we forget to fill up our own cup. Well, you can't pour from an empty cup. So you need to fill yourself up with this first, then you can pour into your children and go to the well that never runs dry. Go to the living water to fill up that cup.
Yes, absolutely. You definitely want to go to God first in prayer before you try and tackle anything with your kids, because each child is unique and only God knows exactly what they need. As parents, and especially as mothers, we're very intuitive. God has blessed us with that nurturing spirit and an ability to teach and equip and train our kids, but we need Him. And so when we spend that time with Him, even if it's 5 minutes, right? Because moms know, especially moms of littles, quiet time is a myth. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just bust that out right now. Like, that does not
So
exist.
true.
So, you know, 5 minutes while the kids are
Mm-hmm.
screaming in the background is just fine, but do
Mm-hmm.
something and spend that time and ask God for His help before you try to tackle whatever it is you're facing in that day.
Yes, absolutely. We call it the power of the pause in our house. Just 5 minutes to pause, give it to God, let Him fill you up, take the time to read the devotional, and then proceed. And for the times when you forget to do that, it's okay. Do it the next time.
Absolutely. Or even after it. Whoa, I am so sorry.
Yes,
I reacted.
yes.
I should not have responded in that way. I'm going to go take a few minutes and try and reset, and then we'll come back and continue this. And our kids are gracious, and we're modeling for them that it's
Yes.
okay to either take the pause at the beginning, which is good and proactive,
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
even to just take responsibility for ourselves and our reactions,
Yes.
and then solve it in the right way. All of those are life skills that our kids need to see. And so they're wonderful teachable moments, even if they don't feel very wonderful at the moment.
That is true, but your book is filled with opportunities for how you can grasp those teachable moments. And that is what I found within those pages. And I think it's a beautiful benefit for any other parent to be able to glean from that as well.
Thank you. Teachable moment should be my middle name. I feel like that is my goal in life, is to help take advantage of those teachable moments. Because when we stop, and we see this in homeschooling, right? That's one of the blessings of homeschooling.
Mhm.
Every moment is an opportunity to learn and to grow. And so when we lean into those, we are so much more effective than we would be if we just let them pass us by.
Yes, absolutely. And don't let the fear of being not quite sure what to do in the moment stop you from it.
Absolutely.
Well, Katie, can you tell us? You've got some upcoming speaking engagements coming up. Where can people find you if they would like to hear you speak in person, or maybe even meet you, depending on what events you've got coming up?
Well, if anyone's in the Atlanta, Georgia area at the end of July, I will be at the Southeast Homeschool Expo, and I would absolutely love to meet you and give you a hug and connect with you. So you can see me there. You can also find me virtually at the Homeschool Superheroes Week coming up at the end of July, and Teach Them Diligently's Back to Homeschool virtual event coming up the beginning of August as well. So I'd love to see you for any of those. And of course, you can find me on my website. I list all my speaking engagements.
That sounds good. And her website is www.katiejtrent.com. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in another segment. But where can we find your book, Recipes for a Sweet Child? Daily Devotionals. Where can
Yes.
we find this book?
So, Recipes for a Sweet Child is available for pre order now everywhere. It officially releases August 8th. So, if you pre order it instead of waiting till August 8th, you actually get our bonus bundle, which is $85 value with some
Ooh.
wonderful resources that have been donated by some of my blogger friends. So, you can go to katiejtrent.com/pre order and find out that information. You just give us your receipt number and get access to all those goodies, but they expire August 8th when the book officially releases. So pre-order your copy now, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can go anywhere. I mean, Amazon, Christian Book, Barnes and Noble, they've all got it. So you'll find that there. And my website is the best place for everything all in one at katiejtrent.com.
Well, I'm telling you, it is worth it. Go buy this book. I will definitely say that it resonated with me so deeply until I went back after reading her preview of this book and bought her first book. Oh my goodness, forgive me, I'm pulling out a blank. Tell me your first book's name again.
Dishing Up
Oh,
Devotions. That one is
that's
character
it.
building. Yep. So that is the
Yes.
36 character traits, biblical character traits that we want to grow in a family in a similar format with fun family activities and baking recipes with object lessons. So,
Yes, I have bought
and
it. I have
Amazon
only
has that
started
on a great deal right now. So if you go to Amazon, it
Oh,
was like 70% off last I checked. They've been doing a big run on it. So
oh, definitely. I'm telling you, Recipes for a Sweet Child was an amazing book, and I've just started dishing up devotions. So I look forward to see what else is coming from Katie in the future because you have been given a gift with reaching and ministry.
in 2024, it'll be a really fun Advent devotional that I'm working on right now. So look for it. I am so excited for that. That was actually the next book I wanted to write, but Recipes for a Sweet Child, God knew that that was what people needed first. So 2024 Advent devotional.
Oh, now I'm really excited. I will circle back around and find you when that gets ready to come out. Well, Katie, thank you so much for your time today. And listeners, please stay tuned because Katie is going to be a very special guest on my sister podcast from It's Only Homeschooling. She is going to be our Salt and Light Serve Spotlight for July. So check in and we're going to hear more from Katie for that episode or for those episodes actually so we can hear all about other things. Katie is a busy woman, so we can hear about all the different things that she's got going on over at her Family Faith Building Academy and community. But for now, thank you so much, Katie, for spending time with us today. Blessings to you, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
Bye bye.